on, guys? Welcome back to United View. Hope everyone is doing very well. Welcome back to the first press conference of the season. Of course, Ten Hag's presser. He's just spoken to the assembled media at Carrington. And the press conferences are back, but so are the injuries. I look at just the concept of injury. I look at the concept of players carrying knocks, players not being available, and I look at them and say,
why are you the way that you are? Honestly, every time I try to do something fun or exciting, you make it not that way. I hate so much about the things that you choose to be.
Indeed. Injury crisis already. It's got a familiar feeling, this one. Yes. What's that feeling? I can feel it in the air. It's desperation. Yes. We're going to be chatting about the injuries. Erik ten Hag has provided team news updates. We don't have a lot of defenders available for Saturday. There are doubts over the likes of Harry Maguire, Victor Lindelof, Aaron Wan-Bissaka. All three players trying to sell, by the way. Yeah, and that's always the way, isn't it? Yes. But Erik ten Hag has spoken on a variety of topics, talking about transfers, talking about the business we've done so far, talking about going after a possible central midfielder, also talking about if Manchester United need to sell to buy too. So there's a lot to get into. I mean, as you would expect, as I kind of said this morning, really, when it comes to Ten Hag and his press conferences, there's a lot that he's not going to say. You've got to ask the question. I get it. You know, you've got to ask sometimes these questions and just kind of get them out of the way. But a lot of the time, he's going to be very cautious with what he says, particularly with transfers, particularly with United's maybe inability to buy players, inability to sell players too. So be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe, bottom right hand corner. Strap yourself in. We're going to be here all season with these press conference reactions. This is what? This is my fourth season here at United View. So this is the fourth season worth of press conferences. We did them all last season and we'll do them all again this time around. Right, let's get straight into it. Let's start off with the injuries. I mean, honestly. So, first question, Erik ten Hag was asked about the injuries in the squad. Asked about Maguire, about Lindelof, what's going on. Erik ten Hag said the following. He said, Harry Maguire missed the game versus Liverpool. Was a precaution, but it is still a question mark for Saturday. So we have training. We have to see whether he is fit enough or not to be available. Victor played, but also he's a question mark. Also, Azza, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and Luke Shaw are both question marks. We have to assess them tomorrow, that being Friday. So let's just get this straight, yeah? Let's just get this straight. Because I said this in the preview to Flex that dropped earlier on today. I said it to Flex. I said, actually, I'm thinking about the sort of defenders we've got available, and I don't think there are many available, you know. And he was like, no. Yeah, Maguire was precaution. That means he's definitely going to play. Lindelof, no, he's going to play. I went, well, wait a minute. Well, where's Robbie? I need Robbie again. I was like, well...
No, wait a minute. Wait.
Well, actually, quite literally, I was
Hold on, wait a minute, Flex.
Yeah, I was saying to Flex, I was like, well, actually, Maguire didn't play, and I don't know if he'd risk him, and Lindelof and Evans, they went off. I mean, I know Evans was ill, but Lindelof went off, and he didn't really play. He didn't really play on the tour, did he? Which would imply that this knock is a bit more serious than just a knock, because he's not playing any games. Like, what's going on there? And then, the Wan-Bissaka one is just what we thought it was when he played like nearly 90 minutes in that game against Liverpool, which everyone went, it's a friendly, who gives a shit? He doesn't need to play all of that game. Who cares about the result when you're into the season? Who cares about the result if you're going to sell him anyway? Just keep him healthy. And we played him for like the majority of the game, and at the end of it, he got a knock. So that means, I don't think it's going to rule him out of a transfer or anything like that. It would appear the thing that could rule him out of a transfer is actually financial demands, which is the case for every Manchester United exit. But it could rule him out of the game at the weekend. Because we decided to play him for 90 minutes nearly in a friendly where we didn't need to. I know we didn't have any other right backs on tour, but again, who gives a shit? Like, who cares about the result? Really. I know there's reactionary people that really, really care about preseason results like it matters, but it doesn't. That's the reality. So take him off. Don't play him for all of that game. And now there's a possibility he's going to be missing out. And then Luke Shaw, this is why all the way through the summer, I don't know how many Transfer View or whatever streams I've been on and said, for me, a priority position this summer is left back. And it's kind of been sort of just swept under the carpet a little bit, hasn't it? Well, we need a centre-back. Well, we need a midfielder. Well, with this Mazraoui one, he can maybe kind of play at left back. And I'm like, no, we need a left back. And the reason why we need a left back is evident here. Because somehow, I don't know how, but Luke Shaw has somehow... He shouldn't have gone to the Euros anyway, by the way. It was a stupid decision by Gareth Southgate. Fortunate England made it to the semi-final and final, that he did actually play. But by that point, you went, well, he's played, so he must be... He's done his rehabilitation. He's played in those games. Now he has some time off, so he can recover a little bit more. And now... seemingly he's injured again. Well, I don't know doing what. And if it's still, again, rehab of his previous injury, that maybe he came back a bit too soon, why the hell did Manchester United allow him to go to the Euros in the first place? Why did he even play in the Euros in the first place if that is the case of, well, I might, sort of aggravate the injury? I mean, we should have known. Sir Jim Ratcliffe, when he was, they sent that message to all of the England players before the final, good luck or whatever. One of the things Sir Jim Ratcliffe said, we thought it was just in jest. We just thought, you silly sausage, can't believe he's saying this, of Luke, please don't pull your hamstring again. He wasn't even joking. He wasn't even joking. Seriously, Luke, don't do anything. You're not ready. You can't do it. You're made of glass. So... I have no idea at this point, and that is why I was saying time and time again, we need a left back, because Luke Shaw, great player. You can't doubt his quality when he's available, but if you have to add that little bit on the end of the sentence, the suffix on the end of the sentence, which is if he's available or when he's available, it's already a problem. And then with Terrell Malacia, bless him, he's going to be back in 2 months' time. What version of him is coming back? We don't know. Can't put it all on Harry Amass. And even Mazraoui, when he's coming in, he's not got the best injury record. He's not really a left back. He can play there, but not really. And if it's Denzel Dumfries, that means Dallow's going over to left back, excuse me. So, again, that's a priority position for this very reason. The season hasn't even started yet. Luke Shaw hasn't played any games. He's injured again. I don't get it. I really don't get it. And I think that's the thing that frustrates me with those two in particular. With the... to be honest, it probably explains the lack of movement when it comes to Victor Lindelof in terms of his exit this summer, because he hasn't been fit all pre-season. He's only played a little bit in the pre-season fixtures. Apart from that, he's not really been available. So no wonder no team really wants to touch him right now. They're like, one, wages, and if it goes down the Wan-Bissaka route, he'll want to pay off. And two, are we even buying a defender that's fit in the first place? Probably not. So why bother? So that probably explains that one. The Wan-Bissaka one is even more frustrating because, again, that's of our own volition. We played him for nearly a whole game for no reason other than, well, we don't have any other right-backs. Who cares if we don't have any right-backs in pre-season, okay? Let's protect ourselves here for games that matter and for transfers that matter. That one is on, Eric Ten Hag. He picks the team there. Don't pick him. And then the Luke Shaw one, it's frustrating because, honestly, you just kind of give up at this point. Unless it is quite literally, we just don't want to risk him for the start of the season. Community Shield's one of those sort of weird ones where it's like, it's competitive, but it's not competitive. We don't want to risk him. He'll be ready for Fulham. Then you'd kind of go, okay, but it's just a waiting game at that point. Start your timers now about when he's going to be injured again. And it's horrible to say that about a player, but it's true with him. It is. So... what a disaster. I mean, what a nightmare. I mean, where's Where's Bill Murray? I need him. There you go.
Well, it's Groundhog Day. Again?
Because I thought we left this in the past. We're going in to the first half game of the season, the curtain raiser as it was, and we're once again having the discussion of which defenders are available. Not many. Dalot, yes. Leacher, we'll talk about that in just a second. Yes. Johnny Evans is going to play again, by the way, and you've got to love Johnny Evans, haven't you? If it wasn't for him, we'd be right in the shit. I mean, we signed him last season, like, he'll only play 4 or 5 games. He was starting against Liverpool and Man City. He's going to do it again. He's going to start again against Man City at Wembley. I mean, and the irony is, he was one of our best defenders last season too. But he shouldn't be. He's in his mid-30s. Like, what? And then, who's going to play at left-back, by the way? No, who? Is it going to maybe be a half-fit Wan-Bissaka? Could get even more hurt, and maybe that deal is going to be off. Is it going to be Harry Amass? Oh, good Lord. I mean, but look, if it's just doubts, they'll be back for Friday. Then you know what? You just got to take it at that point. I'd much rather them miss this game than miss next week. But in terms of, you know, the Olympics are on at the moment. It's a false start. It's a false start and heavy appeals to not be disqualified and removed from the race. Because, my God, I mean, it is a madness. And even, like, Dalot, I mean, I know he's fit, he's an engine, all that kind of stuff. But realistically, he shouldn't be playing the full 90 anyway. He's not even played in pre-season. He came back late because he was with Portugal. It's like, oh, my word. And just, what a gut punch it is. What a gut punch, indeed. So that's injuries for you. That's a good start, isn't it? That's injuries. Good Lord. Pyramid Scheme says, wait. When did Owen finally see the light when it comes to Luke Shaw? Did I miss that stream? I've been saying about Luke Shaw for ages. Ages. This is what I mean, selective hearing. I don't know how many times I've said about Luke Shaw. I think I said it towards the end of last season. I was going, we need a new left back. And look, I'm a fan of Luke Shaw when he plays. He shouldn't play that much. You know, and I keep this energy with any player that has that injury kind of record. You know, it's the same with Martial. It's the same with Luke Shaw. I've said it about players that aren't United players. I said it about people like Jack Wilshere, you know, that kind of thing. You don't want to think, oh, what a great player. And you go, well, but if you have to add the sort of asterisks on it, then that's a problem, isn't it? I mean, it is. Especially in today's day and age, where how often we play, you know. I said it with Varane. I've said it, Proper Perez brings up, I said it with Varane. You know, can't rely on him, unfortunately. Great player. Can't rely on him to be available. It's just, I don't know, honestly. So that's injuries. That's. I'm nice and calm after the injury stuff. As far as who could be available for Saturday, Erik ten Hag was asked if the guys that played at the Euros or guys that played in Copa America, if they could feature. And as you can expect, Erik ten Hag sort of gave, to be fair, a very realistic answer with this. He says that is individual based. Everyone has a different background. We put them on off-season programs, but they have different starts while we're in the USA. We will assess them, make a decision whether they start, come from the bench, or whether they don't play. And I think the point he means by that is obviously some people featured more in these tournaments. Some people went further in these tournaments than others. So all of these kind of players do have a bit of a different start date. But unfortunately, because of the injuries, some of those things are going to have to be moved up, aren't they? I mean, when you're looking at who's going to probably be involved, that's in that sort of international crop, Leacher basically has to start because we don't have any other centre-backs. So Lisandro Martinez is going to start. Bruno will start because it's Bruno Fernandes. He doesn't miss games. Dalot will have to start because who the hell else are we going to play at fullback, or right fullback in particular? So Dalot's going to play. Garnacho, you probably don't need to start him because you do have options there. Cobby, I suppose you don't technically have to start him. I mean, if you want to try and win the game, I'd rather he did. But everything's just kind of thrown up in the air, isn't it? Because of all of those injuries. When asked about Martinez, just very quickly, Erik ten Hag was asked by Simon Stone. I mean, to be fair, Simon Stone asked about 10 million questions in this press conference. Eric, I'm going to say one more question. You must have said that like 5. Just one more question. You asked like 7, Simon. Just one more. One more question. Lisandro Martinez, is he? I mean, I'm just thinking about Harry Maguire and Victor. They're not going to be available. And obviously, Lenny Oro's he's out for 3 months. Is Leach going to be available for Saturday? You think? And Ten Hag said, "We think about Leach to be involved in the game," which is Ten Hag's way of saying yes, he is going to play in the game. Because who else are we going to play at centre-back? We don't have any other centre-backs. It's going to be Leach and Johnny Evans, which I do think, 18 months ago, if you told me in August 2024, Manchester United are going to be playing in the Community Shield, I'd be like, yeah, cool. I could see that. Winning the trophy, not Premier League, I'd assume, we can go find the FA Cup. Got to the final season prior, whatever. But I'd been like... And he went, and the centre-back pairing is going to be Lisandro Martinez. I'm like, yeah. And Johnny Evans. I go, what? What kind of multiverse have I entered here? What kind of... where am I in, like, Deadpool versus Wolverine? What's going on? Am I seeing different versions? Are you a variant? Is this a variant version of Manchester United I'm seeing? Because it can't be the main timeline of Johnny Evans and Martinez at Wembley against Manchester City. What? But that's where we are. That's where we are with all of these injuries. I mean, I do know, I have heard sources. I mean, actually, to be fair, if you tuned into KG's stream earlier today, I did kind of allude to this. I did say that I had heard earlier on today from sources that Luke Shaw was really struggling to be available for the weekend, and he probably won't play. I heard that, so it wasn't as much of a shock, that one, the Luke Shaw one, because I had heard that earlier today. But I have also heard that there is a lot of pressure, as you would expect, on the medical department this season, and a lot of eyeballs on the medical department this season. Now, what that means and what that actually yields is anyone's guess, but at least internally, there is a lot of people looking towards trying to find what those problems are. But yeah, that is not ideal. But Leacher gonna play, because who else is going to play? The Manchester says Thierry Owen. Oh, by the way, the Manchester in person, IRL, did a fan view on the preseason tour. Be sure to check that out. I think in the vlog though, I mean, and this is... It's very difficult to keep your identity hidden nowadays. In the vlog, I think you saw his real identity. Yeah, with the mask off. The mask was off. It's a very controversial situation. The time was then, not now. It was then, and the identity has been revealed. Previously he'd kept them separate. Maybe, but if you go and check out that video, that vlog. Might just see maskless Manchester, yeah? Maybe. As Quartstar says, kayfabe is dead. It is. Kayfabe is dead. It's still real to me, damn it. Manchester. Yes. King Eric's been a member for 2 months. What a picture. Says, Evans is Wolverine. They're going to make him do this till he's 90. I saw, by the way, this is a complete tangent and it will annoy people, but whatever. I saw James from AFTV say he didn't like Deadpool and Wolverine, and I was stunned at that. He said it was a big disappointment. I totally disagree. I was like, really? Found that disappointing. I mean, I suppose not really spoilers, but I'm broad strokes. I think if you're going into that film thinking, it's going to be quite plot heavy, or it's going to be quite, a really in-depth plot that's you're gonna really sink your teeth in. There's not much story in there, but that's kind of, that's kind of the point. It's a Deadpool film with lots of cameos. That's it. It was a good film. I enjoyed it, and it's very self-aware of what it is. You know what I mean? So yeah. Jeremy says it was a massive disappointment and too many sexual references. I would never get that time back. Well, I would say, and I'm not sure what you thought you were walking into with that one, because I mean it is like a rated R film for a reason, and I mean it's Deadpool. That's what Deadpool is. I mean, to be fair, I think they actually toned it down in comparison to the first two films. The first two films, there were certain things they had to take out. In all honesty, too. Yeah, but I thought it was good. It's going to make a lot of money as well. Red Baron with a super chat says, have you kept up with your pal Cage? I spoke to him this morning on his channel. Me and him are currently in competition at the moment. Our Apple Watches are synchronized, and yeah, we're doing the exercise competition at the moment. And look, I'm not gonna lie, not gonna lie, he's got some catching up to do. I've got a strong lead over KG, that comedian, at the moment. I'm capitalizing on the jet lag, but he challenged me. Like, legitimately, he challenged me without even talking to me. I just got a buzz on my watch the other day that said, KG the comedian has challenged you. And I'm not one to back down from a challenge, so game on. It's day 2. I smashed him yesterday. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. I've got a significant. I don't know if he can actually overcome the lead at the moment, but we shall see. But it's good, and I would recommend it to any of you guys that do have like an Apple Watch. I don't even know if you necessarily need an Apple Watch. If you've got the fitness app on your phone, you can challenge your friends, or even if you don't want to do the challenge, you can just become friends, and you can track each other's progress, and keeps you accountable, and it's good. It's good. It's certainly working for me. Right, let's go back to questions, and let's go back to quotes. The next question was about Mason Mount, and was about Mason Mount's performances in the pre-season tour. Erik ten Hag was asked, he had a difficult time last season, did well in the USA, or as Lee Judges would say,
done okay
in the USA. Kind of rhymes. What are you expecting from him this season? And Erik ten Hag said the following. He said, we know he's a high-class player and just bringing skills in. Last season, he had a very bad season, a very tough season for him because of all injuries. And now we are very pleased he had a good pre-season. And I'm sure from this point, he will contribute to the team. If he stays fit, it counts for every player. Big if. big if. At the end there, if he stays fit, and I hope he stays fit. I still think there's a lot of sort of discussion of what his position is at Manchester United. We did see him on the tour play in a variety of positions. We saw him play in the 10, but that's mainly in the absence of Bruno Fernandes. If Bruno Fernandes is in the team, Mason Mount ain't playing in the 10. Could he play as an 8? He could, and he can, but then you worry about sort of, defensive capabilities, because again, it's Casemiro alongside him, and then when does Cobby fit into that? He can play out wide, which he did on the tour, I guess, in certain games against big teams. If you want to try and sort of flood the midfield or have someone cut inside, he can do that. But so he feels like a system player, doesn't he? Or sort of quite a multifunctional player. But then the problem is you look at how much he kind of cost and what have you. I mean, last season, again, was a total disaster for him. And I think I mentioned this as well for him towards the end of last season. I think if he has another big injury, that isn't one he can necessarily control. I mean, if he breaks his leg or whatever, that's just really unfortunate. But if he has another injury where he, pulls his calf, does his hamstring, thigh injury or something like that, then I think, as KG would say, the bombastic side I will really be coming out, because it will be like, okay, can you just not stay fit at this point? What is going on there? What's the situation? I will say I did think he did do well on tour. I was very impressed by his tenacity and his aggression. His pressing was actually very good. And there was one game, was it Arsenal, where he got he must have been fouled. It might have been Real Betis. I forget which one it is. He got fouled loads in that game. Was really in the wars, but was really getting stuck in and again pressing from the front. But as I mentioned, I don't know how much that's going to feature this season because I don't know what position he's going to be in, and I still think that is the key and critical question with Mason Mount is what is his position? And I do think if you asked Erik ten Hag, I don't think he'd give you an answer on that. I think he'd probably say something similar to what he said about Jadon Sancho later on. He goes, well, he can play in a variety of positions. He can play midfield, 10, wide right, wide left, you know. So I think it depends on the system. And look, you need a squad. I've been preaching this for quite some time. I think we as United fans do this quite often. Whenever we bring a player in, we go, what does that mean for this player? Is this player going to drop out? You need a squad. But still, I think you can... I still think there are still questions about, what position he's going to be. Next question was about transfers, and I called this one, didn't I? They said they'd ask about this, and I almost said exactly what his answer is going to be, because after now it's in his third season of Erik, you know exactly what he's going to say when it comes to transfers. So he was asked, you're eager to do business. Can you give us an update on how close you are to bringing in any new players? Ten Hag smiled and he said, when we have news, we will announce it. You've seen the market. It is quite quiet still. We have done business. We have done 2 deals. It's about timings, the market options, the right moment at the right and the right things. And to be fair, that is true. That is something we've spoken about quite a lot, isn't it? Is that the market is quiet. The market is quiet. Not so sure that really is relevant to Manchester United at the moment. I think the market being quiet is maybe reflective that a lot of teams are in a similar situation when it comes to PSR and FFP. But if anything, it's just a bit fortunate of like sirens in the chat. If anything, it's just a bit fortunate that, because we've seen the reaction when other teams do sign players, or it's reported that teams are getting close to signing players. We freak out, don't we? It was like yesterday was the Zubimendi thing, when in reality we go, we can't do that deal anyway. I mean, it'd be great to sign Zubimendi, don't get me wrong. I mean, he was one of the players that, after the Ugarte thing sort of fell apart, he was sort of very, superficially linked to Manchester United. But at the same time, when you just peek under the bonnet of the deal, as it were, you realise, well, we can't do that. Can't do that deal. Why? Well, release clause, 60 million, got to be paid in full. You could negotiate a fee still, but we just walked away from Ugarte for a similar price because we can't afford it. So that one ain't happening for us this summer. And again, that's not to say you just go, oh, that's fine then. I'm happy that he goes to Liverpool. Of course you're not. But it's also a sort of reminder, I suppose, of just, again, where we are. And if you're going to direct that anger towards someone, it should be, I think, towards the Glazers and those people that have been running the club for the last decade into the ground, particularly on the financial side of things, which is Ed Woodward, which is Richard Arnold, which is John Murtough, those people that negotiated and signed off on just the shittiest deals we could possibly think of. I mean, and then also have given us a reputation that is horrible in the transfer market. And now we wonder, why is it really difficult to do these deals? Why is it really tough to sell these players? Well, I wonder why. I can't believe clubs even bother negotiating with us or try buying players off us, really. Particularly West Ham. This is like their third time round. It's like their third time round of trying to buy a player from us. And the player been like, yeah, I'm happy to go, but I want to have a payoff. Eventually, when you're a buying club, you just sort of give Man United a wide berth, don't you? And if you're a selling club and you see Manchester United coming, you start rubbing your hands, don't you? No wonder Everton were like 70 million for Jared Brantwaite, because that's the reputation, isn't it, of Man United? They'll pay it. Why? Well, because they'll just get desperate. They'll get desperate eventually. So they'll do it. Cool, we'll do it. That's fine. So that's what Ineos have to deal with. That's what Ineos have to live with, and there's not a lot they can do about it. There's only so much sort of pushing and pressing that you can do. Certainly they won't want to let players their contracts run down on freeze, but at the same time, in some cases, that's just what's going to happen because they're not going to be able to sell them. And because if they could, a lot of them would be gone by this point. Look at things are bad when all of that chatter. I mean, I remember before the transfer window opened, I remember Fabrizio Romano. I mean, near enough talking in absolutes when it came to Casemiro. Saudi, they're going to come in for him. Casemiro, likely to leave this summer. Very likely to leave this summer. It's going to speed up. It's going to heat up. Casemiro's going to go. And then, like a week or so into the window, it's like, well, I beg to differ. I beg to differ. I don't think so. Even Saudi, again, you don't think it's bad, but even Saudi clubs are looking at Casemiro and going, no, we're not going to do that. We're not, no. No chance. No chance. Why? We're not silly. We're not going to do that one. So, and the funny thing also, I've seen this, is when people go, well, if we were owned by Qatar at this point, all of this stuff, the selling players wouldn't be a problem, which is nonsense. I mean, that is just fantasy, because you look at someone like Newcastle, the wealthiest club in the world, with the richest owners in football, they struggle with FFP and PSR at the moment. So really, it's not a wealth thing. Manchester United do have wealth, but from PSR and FFP, we don't have any money to spend. We can't, because we've just been run into the ground when it comes to, again, shitty transfers, shitty contracts, big wages. So it's not a case of, if we had these different owners, which again is a fantasy, because in retrospect the Glazers never wanted to sell in the first place. It wouldn't make any difference in terms of our current situation right now. Our current situation cannot be affected really that much by whoever's pumping money in, because it's the rigidity of PSR and FFP, and that is what has doomed us in this transfer market, which again is very frustrating. As far as, once again, these transfers and particular targets, Erik ten Hag was asked about a central midfielder, saying, do you want to sign a central midfielder? You've been linked to a central midfielder, and Ten Hag said, I don't want to go into details where we are now in recruitment, what we are working on. We know what we are doing. We are in a good position with the squad, and just wait, patience, and in the right moment, we will tell you. So I suppose at least there is an element of confidence by Erik ten Hag that there will be news to say at some point. He was asked about if Manchester United do need to sell to buy, and obviously, and I know that the reaction to this will be like quite negative, or he's just lying or whatever, but I think he's right to not reveal everything here. So he's asked if Manchester United need to sell to buy, and he said, we did already, we bought already. As I said, we have a squad where in every position there is double occupation. The problem is he can't come out and be like, yes, we can't buy any more players unless we sell. Because if he does that, when we're trying to sell these players, then teams know that. And they already know it anyway, but if you put it blatantly out there in the media, that's going to take an extra amount off that fee that you're potentially going to get, isn't it? The Man United are really desperate to sell players that they can't get anyway. So he's right to be like, no, it's all fine. Because again, and I feel like maybe with this sort of first press conference of the season, maybe we need to put out this sort of PSA once more. With all of these press conferences, it is essentially a big show for the media. There is elements of truth in some answers, but largely it is all horse shit. It's this weird dance that the journalists do with a manager. They'll ask a question that they know they can't get an answer for, just on the hope that they might get something good. So sometimes you get a lot of the same questions, or a lot of no comment answers, or questions that you know aren't going to go anywhere. You get the manager say things certain ways because he can't really say the truth about certain issues because he doesn't want to jeopardize certain things and has to keep things pretty close. So you have to really do this thing where it's like, you can kind of tell half the truth, and you have to, like, again, defend your players and back your club, so you can't really say certain things. So when it comes to quotes coming out of press conferences, you can't take them super seriously, because one, if you just see them without even watching the press conference as well, you lose a lot of the context and the way that they're said and the questions that are actually put to them and how it sort of develops their response. But also take it all with a pinch of salt about this big when it comes to press conferences. And that's not new. That's not for just Manchester United. That's for every manager, because that's how the game works. I know that's very redundant, me saying that, because there will be times this season when there'll be answers in press conferences that we go crazy about and the media go crazy about. But that's just beginning of the season. So we can't say, you did say that earlier on in the season. Beginning of the season, that is how these press conferences work. Again, there is a large amount of horse shit involved in all of it. But that's essentially what they are. The next question was about Jadon Sancho, about his versatility. Of course, could play. I think he probably will actually start at Wembley. And was asked if he might play through the middle. He's played centrally in pre-season. Erik ten Hag said Jadon can play across the whole front line. He's an option for more than one position, and it depends on how you set up the team. You can look at your own tactics, opponents that fit the best, and Jadon had some abilities, and you can use in a game, tactics and the next game. So I think we kind of spoke about this in the preview, and I would recommend you guys to go watch it. But Flex and myself spoke about what kind of system Erik ten Hag could potentially go for against City. And I would think, logically, he would go with the system that worked last time against them at Wembley, which was that sort of 4-2-2-2 or the two sort of false nines, the sort of 4-4-2, however you want to look at it. I think he could go with that again. And if he does go with that again, that could mean it's, you know, Bruno and Sancho up front. That could be potentially what he does. So I think if Jadon Sancho does start at the weekend, I think we would start in that false nine position again. As far as what if he does stay, by the way, which is far from certain, but if he does stay, would that be his role all the way through the season? I don't think so. I think he would be, like Erik ten Hag said, across the front line. But like we sort of were talking about this morning, with those links to PSG and with United's need to sell to buy, it looks like Jadon Sancho is going to possibly be that, you know, chip to cash in, as it were, to kind of get some of these other deals across the line. If PSG are legitimately interested, which at the moment it's just kind of like, well, you know, sort of very brief initial talks have happened. Maybe, maybe not. We shall see. If they can sell Jadon Sancho for like 40 million quid, then they'll go in for De Ligt. The Mazraoui one, they might even just try and do both of them based on that, you know, and see what happens with Wan-Bissaka. So I think he's going to be really, really important for that. So because all the other deals that we thought were going to happen, Casemiro, McTominay, Lindelof, have all dried up like the Sahara. So Jadon Sancho might be critical to any more transfers that we do in this window. But there is still time to go with all of that. And as Erik ten Hag said, it is a bit of a quiet one. Super chat here from United Love says, not entirely correct. If we were bought and the debt was cleared, the amount would make in revenue would allow us to spend more freely because our income would be far greater than our expenditure over 5 years. That's the difference between us and Newcastle. I get that. But my point being is we are still limited. I understand the point of, you know, Qatar would come in and wipe the debt and all that kind of stuff. But even that, this whole thing about, we should have got Qatar, we also have to understand how legitimate an option was that, really. I mean, I know that Sir Jim came out and was like, they weren't even really involved all that much. And then there was that stuff about Qatar. We're going to consult lawyers and we're going to get the SEC to amend that and possibly sue them. And it went very quiet. I mean, has that happened? I heard about they might contact lawyers, but that was several months ago, wasn't it? And still nothing's really happened on that front. So we still don't even really know just truly how legitimate that is. I know there was some reports saying yes, they did meet with them. Other reports were like, no, they didn't meet with them, and all that kind of stuff. It's just that, again, I feel like there is a lot of misdirected blame. A lot of misdirected blame and misdirected anger at the people that are currently in situ, when in reality, the anger should be directed towards the people that got us in this position. I mean, that is kind of baffling. You've got a group of people that are trying to fix things, a group of people that are trying to actively make things better, and we are getting angry at them for someone else's mistakes. How mad is that? That is unbelievable, isn't it? It's like someone's been driving a car, they've run it into the ground, they've done no work on it, they've crashed it into ditches, all this kind of time and time again. They've been driving with like the handbrake on, so everything's just gone to shit too. They've never changed the oil, and then we take them to the mechanics and or into the garage, and then the people, the mechanics try and work on the car. They lift up the bonnet, there's steam going everywhere, and we look at the mechanic and go, "That's your fault." He'd be like, that's like the 50 Cent thing, wouldn't it? He'd be like, what? I mean,
what did he say fuck me for?
You'd be like, I'm trying to fix it. Meanwhile, these other guys don't get brought up. So, yeah, I think you could probably have a little bit of criticism. Not perfect, anyway. It's not to say that, again, a bit like Ten Hag last season. It's not a complete blind faith scenario. They could be criticised in terms of, and I think this is a fair one, of like, well, you did kind of know what you were getting yourself in for when it came to some of these deals. Could you be criticised for maybe being a bit overconfident about your plans this summer? Maybe. Did you set your ambitions maybe too high this summer? Maybe they did. I'd rather them aim high, and at least try and attain it, as opposed to settle. But could they be criticised for that? Sure. And I mentioned this morning too. I think they've learned a lot. They will have learned a lot from this transfer window. Absolutely. The critical thing, I think, at the moment is not to do what Manchester United have done in the past, which is when you're backed into a corner and there is a bit sort of desperation and fear at the moment, is not to lash out and do something stupid. Is not to divert and be like, oh, screw it, let's just get someone. And we don't really want them, but let's just get someone for the sake of getting someone. And then in a year's time, 2 years' time, like, that person actually maybe wasn't that great. Like, oh, what are we going to do with that one? And then it becomes difficult. Now is the time still to have at least a bit of a calm head and go, well, could things been done a bit better? Yes. But also we need to realise it's just, looking at, I hate the phrase at this point, but sins of the past have just completely destroyed us, really. And as Courtstar says there in the chat, and I kind of do agree with this, the Xerxes Euro early deals, maybe that skewed opinion, and maybe that inflated expectations a bit high, but that's also why you shouldn't be hyperbolic when those kind of deals happen. That's why you can't be like, oh, Man United are back after we've signed 2 players, because that's ludicrous to say that, because there's a lot of time to go and the ball hasn't even been kicked at this point. And also, it's also why we go, we're not going to fix, again, over a decade's worth of mismanagement in one transfer window. There's going to be pain. I don't know, because last season we had a lot of pain. We're like, I can't stand it anymore. Put me out of my misery. But there's going to be pain. There's going to be sort of difficulty with these windows. And some of it's going to be shit. And we've got to deal with that. And we've got to live with it, unfortunately. We might not want to. But that's the reality of the situation. And we shouldn't be like, oh, I'm happy with this shit. No, I'm not happy with this shit. But at the same time, I know who caused it. And I'm not going to blame people necessarily really, really harshly for people that are trying to fix it. Because I just don't think that's the right direction to be pointing my anger towards. And yeah, I think it's the people that signed off on it. United Love says, not disagreeing with you on that at all. Qatar may have been a fairy tale, just saying why we could spend if we were debt free and Newcastle can't. It's about how much money you make. That is true. Newcastle don't make a tenth of what we do annually. Love the show. No, I totally agree. That's why that is the frustrating thing about Manchester United, isn't it? Is that, and hopefully we do get to this point in the future, but that is the frustrating thing, is because Manchester United, for all intents and purposes, shouldn't even PSR and FFP shouldn't even really be a thing for us. Because again, it's about profit and loss. It's about, profit and sustainability. And it's about how much you make and how much you lose. And Manchester United's revenue is so high that in reality, to find ourselves in a position where we can't spend on players because it's not in our budget to do so, is kind of mad. I mean, again, but that goes to show how badly Manchester United have been run. And that blame goes at the Glazers for just ploughing debt onto the club. That goes to Ed Woodward for giving away, just throwing money at transfers, throwing money at contracts. That goes to John Murto for doing the same. That goes to Richard Arnold for doing the same. They don't go to Ineos. They've only been in since earlier on this year. And to be, criticising them or be like, oh, they're just more Glazers. It's just madness. It is just madness. And I think it is just like reactionary, I'm angry, so the nearest people towards me, I'm going to have a go at, which I would never recommend to do. I would always recommend take a step back, breathe, and try and think as logically as you possibly can. Red Baron says, have you lost your patience with Shaw? Well, I mentioned, like I said, I don't go over it too much, but I mentioned before, I think it might have been February of this year, whenever his last injury was, whenever that time, was it around the Villa, Luton time when he got hurt, I said, that's it. We need to find the new left back. I've got no doubts of his quality. And I realise he's probably not going to go anywhere anytime soon. So if he is available, he absolutely contributes to the team. But at the same time, we need a new left back. Because we again find ourselves in this position. And this is the start of the season. It's going to be a long season. We're in a lot of competitions. We're playing more games because of the extra European football too. And there's no way he can, he's going to play all the way through that. And there's no way he doesn't get injured again. He doesn't. And to be honest, to be really honest with you, and really blunt with you, and it's not a nice thing to say, but if I were him, I'd be having major doubts about my sort of future over the next sort of 4 or 5 years. And he's not exactly old, but I'd be having major doubts, but going like I can't stay fit. I mean, I understand, again, earlier on in his career, terrible injury, and that has hurt him. But even so, I'd be looking at it going, I've been out for ages. I didn't play all the way through the Euros. I played 2 games. I've had time off, and I'm hurt again. Like, what? What is going on? And how long can that go on for when it comes to him in reality? It's really worrying. But that's why, for me, when I was talking about these positions we needed in the summer, I mentioned a striker, I mentioned a centre-back, midfielder, but always, that left-back position was always up there for this very reason, because it's inevitable. Thanos style, it is inevitable. He will get hurt again. And Malacia, we don't know what version of him is going to come back. We don't. You hope that he can come back and be similar to what he was, but the reality is, long time out, you never know. And he was back up anyway. So, and once more, who on earth, whoever was the person from the medical department that said to Erik ten Hag back in January, that we could let Sergio Reguilon go and possibly dip back into the transfer market for someone else because Luke Shaw and Malacia will be fit, should be fired. I mean, that is, in terms of just some of the most terribly aged takes, up there with Rory Jennings, Haaland won't score goals in the Premier League. Whoever that person was from the Manchester United medical team that said, you can let Reguilon go last January. Why? Shaw and Malacia will be back very soon. So, Shaw played a few games, got injured for the rest of the season. Malacia never came back. So, that was good, wasn't it? So, once again, are we going to be dipping into emergency left-back loan? Are we going to be putting way too much pressure on Harry Amass? I don't think we should. Is it going to be a case of whoever we sign at right-back is going to affect who plays at left-back? I.e., if it's a swap deal with Wan-Bissaka and Dumfries, Dalot moves over and it's Dumfries at right-back. Or is it Mazraoui comes in and he's playing at left-back immediately? I don't know. But it is nuts to really, answer that question. And finally, when asked how seriously he takes the Community Shield, Erik ten Hag said, so we always want to win, also in all the friendlies. It's about a trophy. We will put our team that's very competitive to win this trophy. It's also pre-season. We don't go into big risks with players, the normal approach into this game. So I think that's maybe the stuff I was talking about earlier on when I was talking about how maybe Shaw does play the start of the season and it's just like we just don't want to risk him. Maybe there's being completely extra careful with him, which is the right thing to do, but it's inevitable. Like I said, he will break down at some point, and with the other players. But the Community Shield's a weird one. This debate comes up every year, doesn't it, about how serious it is, whether it's a trophy. Isn't it a trophy? It's certainly not one that you count at the end of the season. You know, if Erik ten Hag has a terrible season, it's not going to be a case of, well, he won the Community Shield, keep him. You know, that kind of thing. It's not something that goes in your favour. I know Arsenal fans have tried to do that with Arteta going, well, Community Shield. I mean, no, come on. It's one of those ones that if you do win it, you go, great, we won a Community Shield, we won at Wembley, it's fantastic. If you lose, it's not a big deal. I mean, look at Manchester City's recent performances in it. Their record's not great, and they've done fine in the Premier League. It doesn't have much of an influence on your season. United won the treble in '99. They didn't win the Community Shield that season. It's one of those, isn't it? So I think that, and that's not copium. That is just how it is. That is how it is. Could they change it and make it feel bigger and more grandiose? Turn it into a, FA Super Cup or something? Perhaps. But as of now, it is just. It's a pre-season game with a little bit of an edge to it, isn't it? It's really what it is. It's just with a little bit of extra oomph on it. Of course, it would be nice to win. And anything's possible. I certainly can't say we've absolutely got no chance, because people said that when we played City at Wembley in a much more important game, the FA Cup final. Ironically, we probably had a stronger team that day. But it's still a Manchester derby at Wembley. So that it's not to say that it means nothing or anything like that. But it's one of those ones that if the result doesn't go, I put it this way: you'd much rather win the first game of the season. If we lose the Community Shield, obviously, the media will do what the media does, and there'll be sections of the fan base that do what they do every single time there's anything negative with Manchester United, which is Chicken Little, the sky's falling, I don't know, doomsday clock, midnight, all that kind of thing. That's inevitable. That will happen. But trust me, if we lose that first game at Old Trafford against Fulham in the Premier League, then that is then it will be complete meltdown, really, won't it? So yeah, the important one is to win that first game of the season. That's really, 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 really what we need. Can't be doing with that. But look, obviously, if it was a really, really devastating defeat on Saturday, that's gonna probably have some people discussing certain things. But even to be honest, even so, it doesn't necessarily define your season, does it? Because was it Villa beginning of last season? They lost to Newcastle. What was it, 5-1 or something like that? They qualified for the Champions League. So those early results, it's certainly in pre-season. Who cares? Community Shield, who cares-ish? Beginning of the season, obviously, pressure's on. But even we've lived it, with Erik ten Hag. For his first two results in his first season were not good. And then that season turned out to be all right. So it doesn't define anything, certainly. But there you go, guys. That's the press conference reaction. The first of the season, tick done in the book. What's on tap? Well, there's going to be What the Devil coming up in about an hour, I think. Should be coming up. The guys from United District discussing all things Manchester United. Tomorrow, we'll be back with a transfer view live, 9 a.m. We'll also have the return of the Trinity, powered by Dan Gore. To be honest, is not having a good time of things. I heard that he's not even back in training. He had a freak injury. Did he break his shoulder or something like that, or his collarbone? So, I'm not gonna lie. I feel like since we started doing that whole powered by Dan Gore thing, we've ruined him. I'm half convinced somewhere there's a voodoo doll involved. I think we should stop talking about players. Let's just shut the channel down, really, because the curses on Dan Gore. But that's coming back tomorrow. Sorry, Dan. Flex KG and myself. A lot to talk about. And then, of course, Saturday, it'll be match day. First official match day of the new season. So you have your traditional match day stuff. You'll have your road trip with Fleck on the way to Wembley. I'll be live 2 hours before kickoff of the match view. I'll be joined by one KG, that comedian. An hour before kickoff, we'll bring you the team news. We'll guide you through the game. After the show, too, after the match view, there'll be the return of the full-time view. Yes, first full-time view of the season, where members can call in and have their say. If you do wish to become a member, you can do so. Links to the video description. It's also pinned in the chat, or just click the join button. So you can call in, have your say, have a chat about the game. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Really, I've missed that. So that's going to be cool. And then, of course, we'll have fan views and all that fun stuff too. Speaking of members, Craig's been a member for 9 months. Says, Brother Owen, I'm going to be on Hopium this season. Good. But don't get too carried away. You know, addiction's very serious. So let's not get too carried away. On it, Craig. Also, just before we wrap things up, Fabrizio Romano has tweeted in the last 13 seconds saying Fiorentina are closing in on David De Gea, just waiting for the Spanish goalkeeper confirmation to book medical tests. 1 year contract plus option for a further season, around €3 million net salary per season. So David De Gea is going to be at a new club. He is going to be playing in Serie A. He's going to be playing for Fiorentina. For possibly 1 season, maybe even 2. Good to see David back in the game. Absolutely. You don't want to see him just retire or anything like that. So, there you go. Anyway, guys, appreciate everyone tuning in. Appreciate everyone watching after the fact. And I'll be back tomorrow morning. I'm out of here. Peace. I never miss a members chat, yeah? Matt, member for 7 months, says, whatever happens, can we not overreact to a result of the Community Shield? We won't indeed. Big up. I'm out of here.